So last week I wasn't really feeling up for a cozy game as much, and I just really felt like a big old open world RPG kind of game. I always see people mentioning the Gothic series in like forums and stuff, and I thought I would finally give it a go. So this was my first time playing a game in this series ever. Cut to this now being one of my absolute favorite RPGs of all time, and here we are. So to answer the question outright, yes. Gothic 2 is very much playable in 2025. Insanely so. I started with Gothic 2 since it had a gold edition that was released, and I figured the first game remake is meant to be released in 2025 anyway, so I would get a chance to play that then. Gothic 2 was originally released in 2001, making it a 24-year-old game, while the gold edition was released back in 2010. As it is an old game, I did put a couple of mods on it just to kind of tweak the visuals and a few other bits. I only used ones from the Steam Workshop since I'm not very great at manually modding games, so yeah, I will list what I used from the Steam Workshop below if you're interested. So Gothic 2 takes place immediately after the end of Gothic 1, with which you actually don't really need to know any information about that one in order to play this game. The game begins with a man named Zardes resurrecting a man, and this is who you'll be playing as. After an apparent victory against something evil, you were killed in the process, but you've now been brought back to life to help with a new threat. So off you pop into the world, with your very first destination being the nearby city. Being an older game, there is of course very minimal direction and hand-holding, but the main point of this game is to just explore, go everywhere you can, and talk to absolutely everyone. And that becomes apparent very early on. So the tower in which you're resurrected in has a few goodies, and then you set off down the road. Controls are a bit tricky to get used to around this time. No mouse is needed, although there is the option. I just used the keyboard with the arrow keys moving my character around and control being the action button. But I got used to it pretty quickly, and I even got to quite liking it. And this game is tough. Similar to Kingdom Come Deliverance, I got my butt handed to me constantly in the beginning. Like, to the point where I was questioning if I should even be playing this game. You start with barely any health, you do barely any damage, you've got no armor, no money for better weapons. But on the plus side, saving is super quick and easy and is something I utilized the heck out of before I went anywhere or did absolutely anything. Basically, before I entered any door or any cave or whatever, I quick saved. Hard. You'll also come across many quests early on that you simply can't do yet because you simply aren't strong enough. So an example of just how in-depth this game is, your first main goal is to get into the city, which you can't do since you look like a convict, because you are. But anyway, instead of just one streamlined way to find your way into this city, you'll come across several different options, and it's up to you which avenue you'll choose. There's a nearby farm where you could do some chores to get some farming clothes. You could also steal said farming clothes if you wanted to. There's this suspicious kind of merchant that will offer to give you a free pass in return for a favor later on. You can also find an old friend in the woods nearby that can give you some tips on how to convince the guards to let you in, and I'm almost certain there's other ways that I just didn't even discover. There's just so many ways to go about pretty much all quests here in Gothic 2. And a lot of these even have consequences and impacts later on in your game. You'll get choices like putting someone innocent in jail, or do you try and deal with the brute that's blackmailing you to do this? Do you do a favor for someone to get their key, or do you beat them up and steal it? As you can probably tell, the quests are really varied. You might need to get someone drunk, or go kill some bandits, steal, find a way in somewhere, deliver items, you name it. The variety is insane, and not a single quest in this game, main or side quest, feels like a filler quest. Not one. It feels like a genuinely lived-in city where people have genuine issues that they need help with. It doesn't feel like a quest, it just feels really natural. And the majority of quests you'll find in this game mostly side quests. So you really need to explore everywhere and talk to everyone because you never know who might have something for you to do. Even down the end of a random alley, you'll find stuff to do, and it gives it such an immersive and fun feeling to it. As a first-time player, I can't even begin to describe how overwhelmed I felt when I first got into this city. I got a bazillion quests and I had no idea how to do anything, and I got so many options and I was scared to do the wrong thing, and there's just no guidance, and add to that I just sucked at fighting. I got beat up by random people sometimes, and going out beyond the city was just a big no because, you know, monsters and stuff. So for this first chapter, I actually followed a guide, and I'm so happy I did since chapter 1 is hefty. It took me 20 hours just to finish the very first chapter in this game. I did basically every single side quest I could possibly do while also exploring everywhere I could possibly go, and I was just so sucked into this game. The leveling up system is amazing. Basically every quest you do and every enemy you kill will give you XP. And then you can also see in your character menu how much XP you'll need to level up to the next level, and then doing so will give you these learning points which you can use to be trained in melee or archery or to increase your strength, dexterity or mana. And there's also some skills that you can use these points to learn, like sneaking, pickpocketing, alchemy and more. So if you don't learn these skills, then you simply just can't use them. So you have to get really strategic on how you allocate these points, especially early on. But this system made it so addictive for me. Every enemy I saw was just like a beaming light shining down on them with how much XP I could potentially get. And every quest, no matter how small, I was so determined to do because I wanted that goddamn XP. I wanted to level up, I wanted to kick butt, I wanted to go out into the wilderness and be able to go where I wanted, when I wanted, and, you know, beat everything I saw and just have no fear of dying. And I was just so addicted. It was just so exciting to find a better weapon, and then, you know, because you need certain strength levels or dexterity to wield them, you can then work on leveling up your character and allocating your learning points to those so that you can actually wield it, and then you have a sick new weapon that does more damage. And yeah, it's so fun. Once you kill an enemy in this game, they are dead for good. No respawning. So I could just keep venturing out further and further. I saved basically before any single fight. So if I saw an enemy up ahead, I would save my game so that if I happened to die, I could just try and try and try again. And I loved it. I'm pretty confident that by the end of chapter 1, I had cleared most enemies from the entire map. Progressing to the next chapter will replenish some of these enemies, ensuring that you can keep gaining XP throughout the game, and it keeps it interesting as well. The world itself has one of the more interesting maps I've ever explored. It's not overly large. I thought it was just the right size so that it kept things interesting all the way through with no big empty areas. So there's temples, random people, plenty of caves, there's farms, homes, and lots of things to discover. And then you also end up unlocking a second area like halfway through the game. So at the point where you kind of get used to the map and you've explored everywhere, bam, you get a whole new map. It's awesome. There's lots of different enemies to fight. Wolves, giant bugs, zombies, orcs. You'll find caves with like a bunch of goblins, like a little goblin family that you can slaughter. There's graveyards with skeletons, and of course, lots of loot. And I really, really like games where you genuinely get excited finding a cave or a chest where you might get some really great items like a new weapon or something valuable. And Gothic 2 delivers with this. Like, you're always rewarded for exploring. Not only loot as well, but I love that as you go to an area for the first time, you'll see events playing out, like someone might run up to you and say something, or you'll see a farm getting attacked by mercenaries or orcs, and it makes the world feel really alive, which is just crazy for how old this game is. Being an old game, you know, of course, it can get a little bit glitchy at times, but honestly, I only ever experienced one bad glitch where basically my camera, it was kind of my fault. I like tapping the talk button too quickly and it glitched out my game and my camera got stuck in someone, and then I had to reset the game because like it was frozen. But there were a lot of other glitches, but they were all in my benefit. So like, you know, I'd be trying to fight a tougher enemy and then they would randomly get stuck in something, and then I could basically just kill them without getting killed myself. And I'm not gonna lie, I tried many times to force this to happen, and it often worked as well because, you know, it's an old game. And I felt like I was just using what the game offers me, you know, in a way. And in like a more legitimate way, the game genuinely wants you to do other things to help you like this. So you can lead monsters over to NPCs so that they can kill them for you. And then, you know, I also like sometimes stood on a fence to like shoot arrows at a guy who would like one hit kill me. So you gotta do what you gotta do. But I think that's what makes this game so fun, is that there's so many ways around stuff, even if you're like low level. Within cities and while exploring the world, NPCs also have their daily schedules, so that just adds to that realism factor. They spend their days working and then they'll go to the pub at night, or, you know, they listen to some gospel, browsing the shops, whatever. I also really liked the voice acting, some of the best I've experienced, and many unique voices as well used for different characters. Unlike Skyrim, where it's like blaringly obvious when they reuse the same voice actors for like more than one character. So yeah, thumbs up. That and the dialogue were just awesome. Some of the things people said had me dying.
Fine.
Like sometimes when they kill an enemy, they'll just randomly scream out, "I love this shit," or like other random and kind of inappropriate things, and I was just losing it. It was so funny. Now in games like Skyrim, which I do keep mentioning because Skyrim is like my holy grail open world medieval RPG. It's my #1 game, and it still is. But Gothic 2 trumps it in so many ways, which I think is kind of funny. But with games like Skyrim, you can pretty much join every single guild or faction, and it just kind of gives this weird feeling like, how am I the leader of the Dark Brotherhood and the Thieves Guild and the Mages and the Imperials and the, well, you get the idea. But in Gothic 2, you are limited to one guild. And this has a huge impact on what quests you can do. They aren't the same quests just given by a different person. Oh no, you get entirely different quests. Like you'll miss out on entire quest lines if you're not in the right guild. So while the main game will play out pretty much the same in the end, the gameplay itself, like how you get to that ending, can change quite a bit. And while it's a really tough decision to make, it totally makes sense. And I kind of feel like it almost solidifies who my character is a bit more and changes how people see me and interact with me, and I'm not just like a jack of all trades like I am in Skyrim. So I played a paladin, but there was also a ton of mage and mercenary quests that I couldn't access. And even other things like training and learning opportunities were blocked out to me because of the guild I chose. So I wanted to learn how to make magic weapons from a guy in a merc camp, and he didn't want to do it because I wasn't with them. And last but not least, the fact that this game was originally released back in 2001 or whatever it was, and you can swim. Like I accidentally fell into the water at the pier and I was just kicking myself because I hadn't saved in a good hour or so, and I was just waiting for the game to tell me that I was dead because I had drowned, when I realized I was swimming. Mind blown. Gothic 2 is an amazing game with so much passion packed into it and made well before its time, and it's now up there with some of my absolute favorite games of all time. I highly recommend it. If this sounds like even remotely a game that you would like but you're umming and ahhing because it looks old, don't play it. Trust me, you'll thank me for it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!